Welcome back to another episode of the Day After Podcast. Not just any episode, it is our recap of the premiere of Survivor 42.
What's up, guys? So Wednesday, last night when we're recording this, 42 premiered, 2 hours long, and Jeff was pretty upfront with it, though I will admit. So right before the actual episode start, there was a car commercial, and it started on wide shot of an island, and I was like, oh shit, and and then it was like, oh, car commercial. And I'm like, you fooled me.
Greatest advertisement placement that commercial could ever put.
What was even funnier was that earlier in the day, they posted like the first 4 minutes. So I already knew it was going to start with that shot, but my dumbass was like so excited that it was like,
yeah, let's talk about it. I thought this was a pretty good episode of Survivor. I think a lot of the cast were allowed the chance to be fleshed out a little bit. I think every single person got a confessional, which is pretty good. There are a few people who are suspiciously weren't shown, like Chanel, for instance. Chanel was. So I thought she would be much bigger on the season, but so far on episode 1, her only thing that she did was her basically saying, hey, Jenny and Mike are a duo, and Hai and Lydia are a duo, which, by the way, hilarious that they're a duo.
Yes, I couldn't help but think that. It was, my God. Well, and then the season's still young.
Yeah, exactly. And then, it was basically her just realizing, like, I guess I got to work with Daniel now. Come on, Daniel, let's be a duo.
Oh, Daniel. There was like 2 separate occasions I was like, oh, Daniel. And then it turned to 3 when he dislocated his arm. That man, I don't know what's going to happen to him.
Yeah. I can see him doing very, like, making it far or going out, like being the next boot. Like I think there's a range that Daniel has, because
there could be. It really depends. I know, like, going into it, he seems very, very like, he's like, he takes up the nerdiness to 11. And I think because if we're talking about like Survivor nerdiness, Zach was a huge Survivor nerd, and then he got eliminated, which was kind of unfortunate. I was like, no, I didn't think you'd be gone this soon.
I feel like Zach's problem really was he like knew that he was on the chopping block, and so he let everyone, almost like with his body mannerisms and everything, they all knew like, oh, he's on the chopping block, and he almost gave them the reason to vote him out by kind of being like, I know it's one of us, it's got to be one of us. He was letting everyone know that so much.
Here's the thing. I know we're jumping ahead, but with Zach, he was doing decent in the beginning. Not only did he have like the young person's alliance, because when Ika first got assembled, it was like the 3 youngins kind of getting together, like the early 20s peeps were like, talking and building shelter. And then it looked like the divide of like, the youngins versus I don't want to say old people, because like, they're not necessarily old, just older than 20.
Exactly.
And then he got Romeo and have the skinny alliance, and I was like, all right, Zach's in a pretty decent spot, but I feel like his downfall too was he was taking a lot of the heat from the challenge.
I don't think it was warranted. I don't think he should have taken any of that challenge blame.
No, not at all.
Like, I admit he wasn't doing great at the puzzle. They kept having cuts of him like clearly kind of being a little sluggish and everything, but like they were so far behind. Like they started when the other groups were like almost on the last like third, last box.
So I'm like, watching that, I'm like, in order to like really catch up on something like that, especially since they're a 2-sided puzzle, which adds to the difficulty, because you have to do the camera side and the side facing you. It's tricky. And plus, like, when you're that far behind, it does kind of like diminishes your
Yeah,
will to keep fighting.
yeah,
And not
exactly.
only that, at that point, you have to just magically get everything right automatically in order to like catch up and possibly win.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely. I think this goes back to what I had said earlier too. I think he just like had that doom and gloom after like losing, that it just like ruined his game. Was the after the challenge? I think he just kind of blew up his game because he was like, oh no, I think he had the idea that he was going to be so good at certain aspects of the game, like the puzzles and everything, that he thought, oh, I'm going to be like, I know you hadn't seen the season, but like Evie in last season, where she was able to just make a puzzle real quick. I think he
Yeah.
thought he was going to be able to do something similar to, being able to make the survive, because it was a puzzle people have seen. It was
Oh yeah,
definitely a
they love
well-known
that puzzle.
survivor puzzle. Yeah, so I think he had that expectation, and the fact that then that didn't happen, I think he just spiraled at that point, which is unfortunate
It
because
was
I
like,
thought he was a great character on the season. I thought he was a lot of fun.
yeah. Um, it's just I would say like it's sad in the sense of like there was so much like hopelessness, and then like for him to even play a shot in the dark, which
Yeah.
he didn't. I don't fault him for doing that because it,
Yeah.
clearly he was right to make the move because there
Yeah.
was like no other way.
Yeah. In my head, I thought Zach should have played the shot in the dark, and I don't think Tori should have. Like, I really think that that was the right play for both of them, because Tori, I think she needs something like that, maybe to be in case she gets further, because I think she has that ability to go further. Whereas Zach, I think, was a little more like, this could have been just for this tribal, could have been the one that takes him home, which obviously it ends up doing. So I'm glad that he plays the shot in the dark. We rarely got to see it last season because of the paranoia and last season also they were very aware of the shot in the dark. I think more so because they made a big deal out of it at like the start of the season, that this is going to be like a big thing, part of it. And this season, I think it was kind of like, here you go, here's the shot in the dark. Oh, my camera went out.
Yeah.
There it goes. Yeah, they made like a little less of the deal. They just kind of handed it to them. And so I think they're I think they know it exists, but I think they're less like, oh, we got to play around this as much.
Well, I think what happened was, and I think it's partially due to the narrative of like, all right, Survivor fans are pretty much familiar with this idea. Therefore, we're not going to spend so much time about them talking about it because they already know the deal with it.
Yeah, I think that's definitely why they did that for the production. But I think by them doing that has created almost less worry about the shot in the dark for the players, because they're like, oh, I guess we have this too now. Okay. Because last season they were very like, don't let anyone know that they are going home. Like, let's have every episode be a blindside, because they were so afraid of the shot in the dark affecting their game.
True.
But I think this time was a little more like, Tori and Zach clearly knew it was one of them. And it was like, there was no like, maybe we're doing someone else. And I think Zach and Tori 100% could have worked together. I hate it when the group of a tribe kind of nominates two people as these are the two biggest targets, and then those two targets decide, okay, I guess we're against each other now. Like, I think they were working together previously, but then they were like forced to face each other. I think they could have easily worked together. They should have talked to Swati. They never talked to Swati about the whole thing. She's the one to throw out Zach. They work together. I mean, I don't understand why Swati was so quick to get rid of Zach here, and why Zach and Tori decided that I guess they had to fight each other. They had to go at it.
It could be a thing where Swati felt like, because Zach wasn't alone on the puzzle and Swati was there too. So like, and I think Tori put it best, like any reason to get rid of someone, it's kind of like, oh wait, he was the one that messed up on the puzzle. And like, it's more so of like, if we're looking at the course of the challenge, which getting to the puzzle is like, everything leads up to the puzzle and giving you time to do the puzzle, all the little obstacles and all that. And so like, if people are like, oh, well, Zach didn't do well on the puzzle and stuff like that, and he admits that, what if people think it's me? So it's kind of like jumping on the bandwagon of like, let's get Zach. Yeah. And
I'm not sure, but I do know that this tribe, I like looking at them, they're going to tribal a lot. There's no way that this tribe is not going to tribal. Like they might miss one tribal in the premiers. I see like this might be a really bad season for this tribe.
Not just for those of you that don't know, and haven't watched any of our other videos relating to 42, we did a on our prediction, we did like a pool for our fantasy team. And when I was like looking at the teams and stuff, so I wrote it down.
Yeah, you have 4 people from this tribe.
Now I have 4 people. Yeah. Originally it was 5. So the blue team, and it wasn't like I just purposely chose all of those in a row. It was like I chose 3 people, and then it came up to a point where there was 4 people left. One of them was David. And so like I wasn't going to choose David. So like I only had like, so I kind of had to pick up 2 more blue people. So yeah.
Do you mean Daniel? Not David?
Daniel.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I noticed that too, because I had that thought when I was watching. I was like, because I didn't realize how small Romeo and Zach actually were compared to some of these other tribes. And first off, this is by far the least athletic season we've ever had.
Yeah,
like without it. Maybe Gabon can compete with it in terms of least athletic, but like they're in the same category, same ballpark in terms of strength.
Which I don't think that's really a bad thing, because it gives more people an opportunity to like shine. However, it does make John look like a demigod.
Yeah, but I will say he did something. I don't think he did it intentionally. I'm not going to give him credit for this move, because I think he just like had a moment of realism. But he basically said he wasn't good at puzzles and just refused to do the triangle puzzle, and decided to do the camp. So I don't think he's going to do the immunity run that I wanted, because you have to be decent at puzzles. Like you don't have to be the best puzzle maker out there, but you need to at least be like competent. Yeah, you have to be confident that if after like a few minutes you've at least made progress on a puzzle. And so I think that tribe, I think all of them are going to make the merge, or at least the fake merge, whatever we want to call whatever happens. Exactly. So I think that whole tribe will make it to that point, because that tribe is just like Jonathan literally was dragging a boat.
Literally carried the team. Granted, he had the help of water, but he carried the team quite literally.
Like let's just be honest, like those first few immunities when it's like purely physical, like Jonathan's just going to beat everyone. Like maybe Drea might be able to win, but like that's like the only person I see actually being able to stop him for a lot of these challenges.
It really depends.
And then of course puzzles, I think other people can beat him in puzzles just because of that. But in terms of pure physical.
I think that's a fair assessment. Because not only do they, that the orange team or yellow, I'm a wee bit colorblind. Not too much, but like enough where I can be like, oh wait, that's not this color. I think they have a lot of I don't want to say A-list contestants, but they have a lot of like strong contestants in like some way, shape, or form. You have Omar or Omer. I think Jeff said Omer.
Did you say Omar? I've only heard Omar from people so far.
I've heard Omar because that's just like my introduction to the pronunciation of the name. But I think sometime during it, Jeff said Omer.
Okay, we'll see if that was him doing it intentionally or if he flubbed the line by accident and they just...
However, it's like with him, it's something where it was like, he's, smart. He was on the puzzle, stuff like that. You have like Marianne, who very, very big personality, like she's like so hard to like, not like root for, in the sense of like, she's like bright, she's positive, she's quirky. it could go one of two ways with her, but like,
yeah, there's a lot
I
of
think
people who said that she was the best part of the episode for some people, which
I loved her little what was it in the next time on Survivor where she's like, here's Marianne.
yeah, I know, just like, yeah, I think that's gonna be her role. I think she's gonna have a lot of fun moments, like almost like in Winners at War with Tony, where they kept just going to his camp even if he was never going to tribal. Like they kept doing fun things at camp. I think we're gonna see a lot of miscellaneous fun things with Marianne, Omar. I mean, I just think the tribe looks like a lot of fun. Overall, like I definitely am rooting for pretty much everyone on this tribe to do pretty well. Unfortunately, someone else on this tribe will not be making it further because they were medevaced out of the game.
It's tricky to say medevaced.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, this is a little more of a
precaution thing. So I looked up what, like, because I was going to talk about it, like, the uses of like lithium and stuff.
Yeah.
And it is an anti manic.
Yeah.
And, it's something where on the surface, granted, I'm not a doctor, I don't think he did it in the wrong way. And since his wife was a nurse and, weaning off and stuff, it did sound well. And I get sometimes some people hide certain things that might inhibit them or get them canceled from doing something. Or like, it was like, no, you can't do this because of this, or like, especially when it comes to health out there, because for reasons like this, I think it was like sad the way it happened, and I don't necessarily blame production because they found out about this like last minute.
Yeah, I think if I was in production, because it seemed like they found out right before they all went out there on the beach for the actual like intro and everything. So they found out a little bit before this. I mean, if they had an alternate and they found out this information, I would have preferred, honestly, them to just immediately say, hey, Jackson, I'm really sorry that, this is the case, but we can't put you out there. We're going to have this person go out there. And so I would have preferred them to have made an immediate action here instead of their decision was to put him out there, let him kind of like be a part of the season and then take him out.
It's the whole Jackson thing. And unfortunately, it was something we kind of saw coming with, the promotional pictures, which, by the way, if you have 2 challenges in the episode, do you really need to show the second one that contains a spoiler? It's like, it was like, I get it. You want to show like what they're doing in the show. However, I really don't think that, they're doing the running and like they're on boats and stuff versus the obstacle course is going to help or hinder your numbers or your ratings. I'm not necessarily in marketing or anything like that, other than, marketing myself as like, an actor, whatnot. But I think the people that are fans of Survivor, they're not going to be like, I'm not watching this season because they didn't show the first immunity challenge. But it was something where kind of going in, and then I saw that he wasn't getting that much screen time until the fire talk. And then we get his backstory and everything. It's one of the things where it's like an unfortunate hiccup that happened in Survivor. And I would say it brought down the episode in the sense like it always sucks to lose someone because of, medical reasons, something that isn't strictly because of the game.
Yeah, exactly.
And then also, it's also in the sense of like, it's not like a double tribal council and stuff.
Yeah, and as I said, like I think they should have made a more immediate decision to just have Jackson not be a part of the season. And if they want him still on it, like I think they could have done next year. If they do a little more of a background check into him, they could have potentially tried to get him onto that season instead. But I think the decision to let him go out there for 2 days pretty much just so that he could say he was on the season and then take him out. I think that was a little dirty, a little like not as what they should have done.
Yeah. It's I think it's like it's one of those things where it'll probably be a learning experience for production.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah,
especially
you could tell Jeff was pretty upset about the whole thing when he went there, and he was trying really hard to hide it and like not explode, because I think he was really upset that something like this had to happen at the start of the season.
yeah, as anyone would, because like
Yeah.
like because medevacs have they led to like iconic survivor moments? Yes. However, at the expense of someone getting hurt or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's different from Jackson because like, yeah, he was starting to show signs of something.
Mm-hmm.
So it was more of a preventative matter as opposed to like actually him like, going into like a seizure or something.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I
Um,
thought was going to happen, because they started saying that he was dehydrated and he was
yeah.
dizzy for like 10 hours. So I thought we were about to see like either him fall or Jeff came because there is something that happened off camera, like in terms of, he fell or something and it got bad, but they just didn't want to show that on TV.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know it was definitely more of the preventative than something that actually happens.
Yeah. I'll admit, like, and I think one thing I know, some people on one Facebook group I'm on, they were like, "Oh, Marianne was like overreacting," stuff like that. I'm like,
Mhm.
no,
I don't think.
she's a very sensitive, like,
Yeah.
wears her heart on the sleeve human being. And so
She is fully her. Like I have no doubt that what we're seeing from her is fully her.
yeah,
Like her honestly, her part almost made it sadder, because I was just like, because
the crying.
yeah, it was the crying, and then everyone started kind of getting into it. It was like, yeah, it was if anyone was wondering about ugly crying, that was Marianne gave us the full cinematic ugly cry.
Yeah. I'll say she kind of reminds me. She reminds me of a less. Granted, there's a few more episodes. There are some assumptions we made that didn't quite pan out. But she does kind of give me Wendy vibes in that kind of like, quirky, self-admittedly weird kind of thing. Hopefully, she doesn't do anything crazy like let loose any chickens or whatnot. But it's gearing up that she might be like, I don't want to say a better version than Wendy, because like Wendy is her own person and is, like played the game the way she played. But like in that same category, as in like, I would say a side grade, not an upgrade, but a side grade. And wherever Marianne is going to go from there, up to her, up to the game,
Yeah.
whatnot. But it's like, I would say like something about her, it's like, wow, it's very like cheerfully, and I'm worried in the sense of like, oh no, if they have to get rid of someone, maybe her. But at the same time, I'm not worried in the sense of like she has an advantage now. She doesn't know that yet, but like she has an advantage.
Yeah.
And the alliance with Omar, it looks like things look pretty promising for her right now.
Yeah, I don't think she's the next one to go on this tribe at all. If I mean, it's probably I just think it's gonna be Ika going to tribal again. Maybe Vati might go. But I definitely think that tribe is just in the
Not
prime.
really going anywhere.
Yeah, they're not going unless like we get down to one tribe having like two people, and then it's like they're doing like shuffleboard or something. Like I don't know.
I mean, you never know, because like look at it this way. The Ika tribe did well in the first challenge. Partially due to like,
would they say they did well though? Because the first portion they were notoriously very bad at that first portion.
Did well in the sense they won.
Yeah. Rox Roy managed to do one thing that they probably won't do that kind of thing again. So
well, no. Listen, you say your piece, I say my piece. But if we look, it really depends on where people are being put as well, because one man doesn't necessarily make up a team, and there are a lot of strong people on that team.
Yeah.
But with Maria, she was having trouble with that one thing.
Yeah.
There is a possibility where, depending on like where someone's strengths may lie, not everyone can be everywhere at once.
Yeah.
You know, like if it's something that do with aim, maybe
Mhm.
John doesn't have a good arm or good aim,
Yeah.
or one of them, you know, like there are like different things that could play a factor into
Yeah.
it.
I just think that they have the strongest physical person and the strongest puzzle person, which is Omar. I think those two, like, as long as if it's physical and a puzzle, like this tribe just can't go to tribal pretty much.
Fair.
Yeah.
It does seem like a good combination, but you know, I don't put my chips in one basket.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, except for the
I said
Ica
the
tribe,
exact
apparently.
same thing about Lulu Tribe last season, and guess what happens? Like,
You know, there's always the possibility that it happens
and
again.
I am
but
saying they could throw a challenge. Like, there's a chance that they throw a challenge. Like, that is possible. But I think them actually going down to 5 and losing person here is good for this tribe, because now they're not going to seem like the Lulu 6 where they're 6 strong. They are actually down a person already. So it seems that they're not this master, you know, big number going into the merge.
yeah. Who knows? I mean, definitely if you haven't gone to tribal, you lose experience at tribal and know how to navigate it a little bit better. And also, kind of like what Tori said, you don't really know, you know, how you can trust someone until you do it. I'm at not what she said verbatim at all, but like in the sense of like, this is where trust is built. And like, I know, like I haven't had the opportunity to show that trust, but this is like the time. Also, we did see a lot of like Tori's. She was a bit more catty than I thought.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I knew a little bit that she's like that in Sequester, but also Sequester. So I should point out differences quick about Sequester and Survivor. Sequester does the full season. They film it in 5 days. So it is a very fast-paced game. You're basically allowed to move at a very quick pace, or a Survivor is a marathon. It is not a sprint. And I think she came in this playing a bit more sequestery by trying to, you know, be like, oh, I think these guys are the nerds, so I'm going to start talking about Harry Potter and da 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 da, and like trying to go in that way. And I just think that might, like, I don't know, when I was like watching the other reactions, it seemed like they were like, yeah, butterbeer, that's good. Like it kind of seemed like they were like not really into the conversation, but Tori was like trying to push that conversation really hard.
yeah, I mean, I think there's a possibility.
Yeah, I know it sucks when I have to criticize your number 1 draft pick, right?
Well,
But
I mean,
I
feel
will
like
say Tori played a very messy this game.
it was messy. Don't get me wrong. I feel
Yeah.
like that wasn't necessarily the fault in Tori. Like I was
Oh,
like,
there's a lot of fun. But go ahead.
so like the main thing was, and she even brought it up, was the idol hunting in the beginning.
Mhm.
And then what, you know, the cattle, and then not only that, bringing it up in the group and being like, I thought she was done
Yeah.
at this point, where she was like, okay, everyone, I know there are rumors of me going out to find Idol. When that happened, I was like, oh no, this is like the moment where you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So I would say the one thing that I kind of knew I was safe, or like that she wasn't going to be voted out, was I was like, all right. So they keep showing, oh, the potato has skin.
Yeah,
I
you know
have
she
skin.
can't go home this episode. Like that's another thing. When they give you those previews, you know that someone can't go home until you've seen like a very specific thing.
Especially with something like that. Like during a challenge shots and all that, there are so many shots that go into a challenge you don't really know. But for this, where it was specifically aligned and specifically for a twist, you know, I was looking, I'm like, all right, you know, they're about to go to tribal, so clearly she's not going home. Is it going to be Roxroy? Is it going to be Zach? I would say that for those of you that didn't follow like the leaks, or like, you know, like the leaks of like, you know, who the tribe would be, Roxroy was the last one to get a picture. And so
I thought it was him.
Based on when he was starting to be like the strict parent around there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they gave us his backstory a little bit. Like they let us have kind of like, and that they do that to a lot of the people who go out, in this first episode. They did that last season. They tried to give this kind of moments for the first boots. But yeah, it's I was expecting him to go. He had a lot of moments that it felt like he was like, we don't need to worry about the plan. Like, let's just decide something and stick with it. Like, he was like, that is the classic, like, early pre-merge blindside like mindsets. And I was like, this seems like it's got to be him. But then after the challenge, it became Tori and Zach, and Roxroy was not really brought up.
He was
much.
like mentioned a few times, but it was more so of never... like, he was brought up in the sense of like, I saw Roxroy, he kind of like gave up at one point, or like Drea brought up the fact of like, when I was up front pulling, I was the only one pulling, and Zach and Roxroy didn't really do much. To Tori. And it's something where it's one of the things, and it's part of the reasons why, I didn't try to let the picture not showing up, because I didn't look up anyone's social media. Who knows? Roxroy might not have like a social media or anything like that. Some people straight up don't care about that stuff. More power to those people.
I don't know. I right now I think Roxroy is in contention for potentially being if you end up winning as the person that I have to buy a cameo for. I don't know, like, we did think going in that he was going to be cool, calm, collective and stuff, but then again, he was doing it in an interview setting. But he was kind of, like the strict dad did come out and stuff. Yeah, well, I look at his tribe. They are so young compared to him. Even Romeo who's closest age to him, looks young. Like he can act like he is 20. Like
good genes, and all that. I will say, speaking of Romeo, I do feel like maybe he's one to keep an eye out for. I know, like, he was one of the last people to be chosen, that was just well, I mean, in the sense of like, he technically wasn't chosen, but he was down in the final two with Roxroy. But he was, and the first one eliminated on our Brand Steel simulation.
But he's got way more game, I think. I don't know if he'll make it further in this game. I think he could still go, but I don't know. On that tribe right now, like, Tori is probably a big contender for going home, but if she can kind of manage to if she can snake her way and make it through to the fake merge, it'll be almost as impressive as Chanel. Not Chanel. Shan last season dominating. Like, it'll have almost a different like way of dominating the tribe, but it'll be impressive if she makes it there.
I mean, there is always the possibility. I mean, it's only the first episode, and like things could come around. Maybe Zach was like someone that was weighing down the team. Who knows? It's a little tricky, and like, it does lead toward next episode where it does seem like, oh, Tori is targeting Drea, and like, obviously your name's brought up once, it's likely to be brought up again.
Exactly. And I will say Drea was great. I want to say that real quick. Drea was the star of the episode for me.
Getting two different advantages.
And her confessionals are so great. It is just stone cold. It's just like, I'm doing this for me. Like, it is so great. I love it when female players come out there and they are playing hard. Because a lot of female players go out there and they don't play hard until like the last like 10 days of the game, and they're just the sleeper threats. But like, Drea's decided she wants to be the threat of the season.
I mean, and this is why I kind of like thought Romeo wasn't going to do too hot. Granted, season's still early, but it was like, because he had such an aggressive like like in his interviews talking so like aggressively how he was going to play the game, that usually, and especially in a season like this, where it is fast paced, what we saw last season, some of the bigger players kind of got targeted early. Now, granted, with the UA tribe, everyone just kind of got targeted down to a whittle to two people. But like in a fast paced game, you just kind of have to like go at it. Like Voce was like first one targeted on his tribe.
Yeah.
Other than Abraham, obviously. But like when getting to know peeps and all that stuff,
Yeah,
he got
exactly.
targeted pretty early on. It's one of those things where with the faster games comes a more aggressive gameplay, and sometimes the most aggressive one is the one you go after because that's the most visible target.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of her advantages, the first one she finds is in the challenge, which by the way, I will say, so first off, I love the advantage itself. I actually think it's a really good advantage in Survivor. A little upset at how they introduced it, mostly because they introduced it in the middle of a challenge where they had to then wait for everyone to catch up, meaning that first hurdle of the challenge was wasted time and just completely not needed.
It was. That is something I noticed.
Yeah. Like that was my critique. Like, but the thing is, like, I liked what ended up happening, but it was definitely kind of like, well, I wish that like this either happened first, or this was something else, or if this was the prisoner's dilemma. They didn't do prisoner's dilemma. They just had
I thought that
something
was
over there. Yeah, like I think that would have been better for how they introduced it. But yet again, I do enjoy this advantage.
Yeah, I think it's also interesting because like where it was like, oh, you have all three. All right, all of you three of you have to agree on this together. And you all, we've seen in so many Survivor seasons in the past where at least during that moment, you get like a bond in a sense of like, all right, we're all in this together. We all have an advantage. We don't tell anyone. We're all good. And secrets, like that can help so much, especially if it's like a conjoined thing. And it is in a sense, however, it's like, all right, now I know who has the other amulets. And like, when all of these like things come into play and it's like, all right, is someone actually going to use it for like an extra vote? Is, like, oh, do I have to get rid? Who do you tell?
I recently watched the Rob has a podcast, Know It Alls, and they refer to this as you get some side quests because now you can take out the other people who have it for the chance of getting your own idol. So there's really a big benefit of trying to be the last one from that little threesome to be in the game. So because the thing is, like, if all three of them work together, they get an extra vote. Now, I don't know how this works. I don't know if all of them get an extra vote or if they just get one extra vote to share between all three of them. I'm not sure how that works. Because if they all get an extra vote, that gives them 6 votes at tribal. Like they basically can choose how a vote goes. But if they just get one, there is no incentive for them to work together. There is no reason for them to risk their game for one extra vote. Like
unless they're on the bottom or like
but the thing is, and this is why it doesn't work, is that they are all on different tribes with different dynamics. And if we are assuming the same thing of last season, that we might not be getting a swap here, they're going to be on this tribe for a very long time with each other and then suddenly put into a merge where they are being forced to target each other. So why not just target the people that has this advantage to get an idol where you're guaranteeing yourself guaranteed you can move it one further into the game.
I definitely think that is like an easy route. And they even said one of the interesting things to note was that all three of them were pretty solid like players. Lindsay, Drea, and Hai, they were all like, it was like, oh yeah. Though Lindsay, I think, is going to be like overshadowed a little bit, mostly because of like who's on her tribe. I think Lindsay and Maria will probably have a little bit trouble like breaking like getting that much screen time. How
they have big characters on that tribe.
Yeah, and so like I feel like the three people that got it, they're strong players. Like, you know, two of them being like ones that everyone has high up on their list. I was talking to like a co-star from this one thing I'm doing, who also likes Survivor, and she said her winner pick is she likes Drea. This was before the episode aired, so like it definitely like high profile people have these advantages, this specific advantage, and I feel like this one is a little bit. There's a little bit more dynamic than the Beware one. The Beware one makes for like crazy television, and I wonder if they're able to make lightning strike twice with that, because the payoff of it finally being activated was a cool moment. However, it's tricky, and especially with Tori's line.
I'm really hoping that everyone finds the idols very quickly. Like, I would like if the first time someone says this, the other two lines are also said at the same time, so that way it really feels like they slid one by the rest of the cast. Like, even though you can fake one time saying a really stupid, crazy line. Like, you can just say, I don't know, Jeff called on me, and I just said something because I wanted to seem like I had something to say.
They made it work last season. Well, I mean, other than Brad, but like he didn't quite get it. But like, if Brad like remembered what it was the next time, I feel like, like it's something where it can work.
I don't want everyone in the season to know who has the idols, because that literally ruins the idols. Like, there's no point of having the idols at that point.
I feel like there are some benefits to it in the sense of like, besides, like him playing it at the very end, Xander. Which I wish he held on to it, because that way we've gotten a season with zero idol plays, which would have been crazy. Exactly. But it's something where knowledge is power, and then if they bring back the snatch advantage, that could play into a factor. And it's also like kind of like similar to the amulets, where okay, like I know this about this person and that person. It's crazy. It's something where I think it was like a thing of like being more stealth, kind of like how they were able to get rid of Nasir and Shan with idols in their pockets. Like, in the sense of like being that stealth, it encourages more gameplay from the other people. So I do see like the benefit of it. Granted, it's like, it's always nice to have those like secret idols or whatnot. Like the Beware one was like, cool, this is probably the last time they're going to do it, because like Jeff he started this episode as like, they haven't seen this, so there's some things we can get away with this time.
I think even Jeff knows that some of these advantages went a little too far. I will say it started off, not started off, but the triangle puzzle and the sweats, they changed that a little bit, and now I think the way they changed it, clearly they wanted people to not do the sweat this time. They wanted the puzzle, so that way, so they changed it instead of two people, so that way you can't have a dual alliance get created. Only one person can do it. And the triangle, you get two guesses, so that way even if you're wrong, you can maybe kind of give
automatically
yourself
better.
And
it was nice for both of them to actually like do it too.
Exactly,
because it did look hard. Marianne brought up like a really good point where it was like, oh, like, especially since you don't really have stuff to write down other than the very small chalkboard, it can be easy to like miscount stuff.
Exactly.
Especially with a puzzle like that. So it was kind of cool seeing them, like both teams doing it. That was nice. I will say the prisoners.
I forgot real quick. I want to mention the best part, funniest part of the whole episode is Hai covering himself in blood, and then Lydia being like, "Are you bleeding?"
All right, there was another point I wanted to bring up.
Okay.
with that specifically, thank you
Oh,
for
yeah.
bringing it up. Um, I feel like the blood was a little bit of a booby trap
Yeah. Oh,
because
100%.
it's like, yeah, I get like the mud and stuff or like rolling around in the sand, but like blood,
Mhm.
everyone at home, what causes a person to bleed?
Yeah,
A
especially
cut
all over your
or
chest.
laceration,
Yeah.
or like your nose bleeding, or some sort of injury like that.
Mhm.
When you have a bunch of blood on you and no cuts or hole or something like that where the
Yeah.
blood is coming from, it
Like,
is 100% sus.
yeah, I was waiting so bad when Daniel was getting his arm put back into place. I was hoping Lydia would be like, "Can you check high? He's bleeding over here."
Yeah, it was like, dude, it overkill. No
Yeah.
pun. It's just like no pun intended there, but it was like it was a lot of blood that you didn't really.
Yeah. Someone even was like, why would he put blood on? We're not bleeding. And we just see I just still doing it. Like,
I mean,
uh,
maybe the only thing I could possibly see is like, a little under the nose to be like, oh
yeah.
yeah, because that's believable.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Or some cuts around like maybe the ankle area. Like you can maybe kind of
and
like
even
put
then,
you
like
put like some dabs there maybe, but like that's not necessary.
even then, like with the ankles or whatnot, if you don't have a pre-existing like cut on there, like I have cuts on my ankle, that's mostly because I bike.
Yeah.
Um, if I went out to Survivor, I still had these cuts, I put up their work. But like there was even a shot where, High was a bit more washed up and no cuts. And like I definitely
Yeah.
think, especially with something like that. Now I've used fake blood that can help give the illusion of like a deep wound and all
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
However, when it washes off, and especially you're going in the water immediately after that too,
Yeah,
it
exactly.
was definitely like a booby trap
Yeah.
kind of thing there.
This is definitely my most looking I'm looking forward most to learning more about how everyone reacted to this situation and if they did bring up that that was suspicious because I wonder if they're just going to keep that silent and not show us that or if they will show that to us at some points. I don't know.
There's a possible. I don't know. It's tricky, especially since things are going fast. There's only so
Yeah,
much time they can show
exactly.
stuff.
And if High
Um,
is if he ends up going far and has a pretty good run, they probably won't want to have something like that in the show.
I mean, potentially. I mean, and Lydia and High, like they're 1 and 2.
Yeah,
I do want to talk about Lydia
yeah.
for a sec. Yeah, our brand steals aside, for those of you that haven't seen our brand steals, Lydia is quite the character.
Yeah. She was a big
Made her
character on our brand steals, and it looks like she's going to be a big character on the actual season.
She is giving me David Wright vibes.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the sense of like the first thing she's talking about was like, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that, I'm afraid of getting burned. And there was even one pic of her, like one of the stills where she was like kind of like sheltering herself from the sun, like Cochran in 26. And like I was like, she's giving these vibes of like an underdog and stuff like that. And you know, um, it's going to be interesting to see like how that might play out because yeah, we talked mostly about Ika tribe going multiple times,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like the wild card being if we were gonna choose, like the Vati tribe. Um, I don't know. It's tough because Mike seems to be like a big personality, and right now he's been true to his word as being like open, nice, vulnerable guy, big teddy bear. We'll see when a tribal plays in. Like, granted, there's like they hinted at something between him and Daniel. So I'm gonna do that the whole time.
It's
Either
one of
way,
those D words.
the the arm is broken. So like there could be something there, and we'll find out more when they actually do. But
Yeah.
on that team, I feel like, yeah, we just really have to see how the chips lie Mike is the one that's going to be getting the Beware advantage from what we can tell.
Exactly. So that could hurt them if this is a 2-2-2 split in the tribe, because that would essentially mean that Jenny's the only one in that duo that can vote for them. If the Beware, I believe it works the same way as it did last time where they lose the vote until all the things come. I'm assuming that's going to be what happens.
Yeah. Because I don't think they would mention that, especially since it worked. It's gonna.
Yeah, it wasn't one of the ones that I think they immediately was like, "Ooh, we got to change that." So I think at least that one they're gonna they wouldn't have had the time to maybe think about tweaking it.
Yeah, I will say the fact that Jenny was the only one that didn't get an advantage, which was she played it out smart because she was like, yeah. I know at least Drea is going to. Marianne looks like she will. It was smart to just not go for it. Because you lose your vote in that regard of reading it. No one brought up the fact of what happened on the island. Like in 41, they were like, there was like a moment
story time
back at camp where they were like, "Oh, hey, this happened." We didn't really get to see it this time around, so who knows what they said. We're likely to get another Prisoner's Dilemmas next episode. And so someone on that team could possibly get one. However, when it comes to, you go from two forces against each other, and we're assuming that Mike is not going to be one of the forces. But if you have Mike and Jenny, and you have, let's say, since he's, arguing with Daniel and Chanel, that leaves Hai and Lydia in the middle. Now, even if they go with Mike and Jenny, it's still a majority vote because you have 3 against the 2. So him losing his vote right now maybe not be the end of the world. It could definitely be a big target on him, but it's not like the damning thing for him.
What is interesting is it did seem like Daniel and Mike both have in the preview that they're going to be getting some kind of advantage, and them being on the same tribe means that I don't know, at least one of them will get the Beware advantage, and then the other one, maybe they're getting advantage somewhere else that they end up going into the forest to read what it is. Maybe they don't know what it is yet. I don't know.
Or the thing is, previews can sometimes be misleading just to mess with us. They could be working together, and then they're talking in that one part where it's like, oh, there's always a twist.
Yeah, maybe. It definitely seemed like Daniel was by himself during it. And he was reading a much smaller paper. I believe it was a very, it wasn't as big as what the Beware advantage was.
I forget. Yeah, I don't know. There's always that nerdy part of me that wants to analyze every little thing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's especially if the show is out, if it's a Marvel movie or something, I'll be sweaty and I pause here is oh, is this Venom or is it the Lizard? All that stuff. Or with the Doctor Strange trailer or poster, just I have such a rich vocabulary. But it's something if it's a show and I'm actively watching the show, it's hard for me to just go back and then see here and here. I did so for when we made our draft for this season, but go back. I forget if there was something in his hand. It would make sense if he did. Who knows? They could work together. They could not. Could be the same thing with Tori and Drea. It's tough to say, and this is all assuming that either tribe goes to tribal council.
Yeah, exactly. If I had to put money, I'm still gonna say I think the Ica tribe goes tribal. If you put a gun to my head, I'm probably gonna say it's someone on that tribe, and I'd probably say it's either Roxroy or Tori as the likely boots.
I know you actually mean this, and you're not saying it to hurt me, but it's still hurting me.
I know. I gotta be real with.
You're being honest. You're being honest, and obviously we're not going to be talk show.
Like
We
I
can't
like
just
Tori.
like
I was rooting for Tori obviously going into this. I knew her a little bit with Sequester, so I'm rooting for her. But like so far,
first episode.
for first
Sometimes
episode
you
was
get
very rough. Now you can bounce back from a first episode. It happens to a lot of players, but it can
even some
also
winners.
yeah, even winners can have bad first episodes, but it can also hinder you and potentially bring you to the point where you're just this big threat at episode one.
I'm not gonna. I mean, like, if we look at it this way, she has 4 more episodes to get through, 4 more eliminations.
Yeah.
We know she is getting an idol of some sort, whether it's early on, whether she's a victim of the Beware idol
Yeah,
or
she
not.
if all the people find the idol and say their phrase on that first time, that'll be great for Tori. I think that would give her a good chance to potentially have power to make it through this tribe. But
Yeah.
it is definitely it's a uphill battle. Like
I will admit, yeah, it's uphill.
any Survivor player would not want to be where Tori is after day 3.
No. Oh, Tori.
Yeah.
Damn me.
Yeah.
Damn me, my blondes.
Yeah, we'll see if Ryan's blonde streak has gotten him the worst first pick in our branch
To be fair, I've gotten better at it. And now it's just like a passing joke every now and then.
It is, but it's a funny joke nonetheless.
I
mean,
yeah. Heather kind of counts because of last season.
Yeah,
she was blonde.
I think we're looking at different blondes.
Yes, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
All right. Is there anything that I'm leaving off here?
Yeah, I'm looking through to see. Swatsy, I think, had a pretty good episode.
Yeah, great backstory and
pretty solid. Yeah.
I feel like the fact that she's. What did I specifically write down? Because I was in a clever move. Army hippie, yeah, Army hippie that goes to Harvard. It seems like 3 totally different things coming together all at once.
Yeah.
But you know, like if she's able to incorporate that, that's part of the reason why I chose her early on in my draft, because I was like, there's something about her. And part of this is being the Army hippie that's going to Harvard.
Yeah, she played great. She got to ultimately make the first decision at tribal council. Like, she's the one that calls for Zach, sticks on Zach, does not get swayed, and manages to talk everyone else on the tribe to still vote Zach.
Her name was not really brought up, and good thing.
Yeah, and I don't think she'll go home next either. I think people are going to be looking at her as like, let's work with Swati for the next couple votes.
I will say, yeah, out of everyone in that tribe, I think she's the only one not in danger. Second place, maybe Romeo.
But even Romeo, I could still see him, because now he has to do the challenge next week. So he might have another Zach moment, and maybe they just keep taking out whoever does the worst at challenges. I don't know.
Well, I mean, we don't know if he's bad at challenges, really, just because someone sits out.
Yeah, but you'd imagine if they chose someone else over you. If you're chosen as like, hey, you are the worst like they looked at him as the worst person, so they put him there. I imagine that there's some truth to it.
No, obviously. But I never try and just be like downright, oh, this. There's always that like.
I mean, he's even skinnier than Zach. Like, that's crazy. He's 112 pounds.
That's insane. Not in a bad way, but in the sense of like, especially because it's kind of like the things like we did imagine him a bit taller, as someone who is like skinny and somewhat on the short side. I'm like just under average. One time I met a person online, and like I was meeting up with him and his bunch of his friends, and then like when we saw each other, he was like, "You're a lot shorter than I realized," and I'm like, "Yeah, I get that a lot." It's but yeah, Swati is definitely.
I think she's in the best spots.
Best spot, yes. I would say Drea, obviously having like 2 advantages under her belt puts her in a pretty good spot. Roxroy really depends on. I think Tori's saving grace could be if Roxroy keeps doing things around camp.
If I was Tori, I would immediately be figuring out how I get rid of Roxroy. Like I think he's the next person that she should be trying to. I think Tori's strategy now is just find who should be the next one to go and try to throw them under the bus. I think that's just her strategy. I think she just has to see who has the best ability to win a debate over her or someone else and manage to win that debate pretty much. Like I think that's she's got to make that case, I think, like almost every time.
I think she definitely does, at least to an extent, because there was a moment where both Drea and her were like kind of like on the same page. And if Roxroy, you know, granted, it was a physically demanding challenge. Like I can only imagine trying to lift like a boat.
It looked hard. I would be dying out there. Yeah.
If it's something where, you know, Roxroy, you know, at camp life is being still kind of like the stern dad. And if he's like, you know, taking breaks during challenges, which I don't blame yourself if you need to like time to like recuperate in order to like get it done.
Yeah.
But like not everyone perceives it that way. I don't know. It's something where Tori's in a playable position, but it's kind of like me when I'm drafting a team for, you know, this or a Brand Steel. I'm gonna, you know, it's rough and it's an uphill battle.
Yeah, but you're hoping that you manage to get that one winner very early on that makes it not matter how bad your drafting is afterwards.
The thing is, this time around, I was very confident in my drafting. I was like, even with the whole Jackson Fox thing, I walked away very satisfied with my picks. I was like,
last season, I felt like I had so much better players, so many more players.
I looked at my list and I'm like, I kind of have buyer's remorse here.
This time I will say I felt like it was even. I felt like not one of us won the draft, but I don't think one of us really badly lost the draft yet. But you do have the first 2 boots.
The only thing was the Jackson thing.
But even then, it's actually good that you drafted him. Like I think you drafted him like 7th or something. Like pretty down there. So. Like I look at it as like a game of numbers in the sense of the lower your draft pick is, and if they go around that same area, it's fine. But the ones that make a big difference are when you draft first and then they go out early, or you draft someone last and then they make a long run. Like those are the ones that make a big difference in drafts.
Fair point. I would say the only like draft that didn't make it to like the merge that was like up there was Genie. Everyone else was kind of like either mid or kind of near the bottom. Maybe Sarah, I forget where Sarah plays. She wasn't like high on my list, but like it was like I know the top 3 was, you know, Shan, Genie, Nasir, and then like maybe Sarah, but I don't think she was like that high up. Or maybe she was 4.
Yeah, I know if Roxroy goes out next, your bottom 3 picks will all be gone.
Well, how about no? How about no? No. It's like, come on, you're gonna do this to me again. Is there anything else other than the fact that, you know, we're gonna choose our MVP and LVP?
I think we've covered pretty much everything. Jenny was surprisingly not surprisingly, but she was very smart. She led the puzzle for Tribe. But not too much. I think we pretty much covered everything.
Pretty much, yeah. Let's see.
Okay. Well then,
I think the one thing was Marianne was like talking about like having the bare necessities and all that when they finally got, you know, their pot machete and stuff like that, and flint. And I was like, oh, you know, we had to work this hard to get the bare necessities. And I'm like, that line kind of hits a little bit too real.
Yeah.
That was a fun little line, she said.
Exactly.
All right, so for the MVP, I am going with Drea.
Same.
Yeah, 2 advantages, being pretty, like, and being able to interact with, 4 different people on 2 different tribes,
Mhm.
already kind of like implementing that. It could put I would say the only thing is going into the merge, it could put a target on her back,
Mhm.
but it's something where right now and in pre-merge, she seems like she is in a good position, depending on like how the Tori thing plays out, or like, though I feel on that on that team, you don't want to get rid of Drea. She seems like one of the stronger contestants out there.
Yeah, I think Ikaruin needs to just keep. Like this is the thing. Rocktroy might stay on this tribe a little longer just because he's kind of like their strength, and if they get rid of him, then they have even less people to potentially do something. So Drea and Rocktroy might be in a good spot just by being the best at challenges.
Yeah,
So
there is that possibility.
so we'll see. But yeah, I agree. I think Dre is what is the clear choice in my opinion.
And for LVP, I think we're gonna choose 2 different people. I
Yeah.
have to choose Daniel.
Why? I
Dislocated,
didn't think he played bad at all.
bad in the sense where he dislocated his arm.
Yeah, like
twice.
Stephanie LaGrossa.
I hate him.
Like he literally compared, like it gets compared to Stephanie LaGrossa in the episode. Like it like everyone like looked at him as like a badass by still being able to, like, he finished the challenge with a like they didn't pop it in right away. Like Stephanie like immediately did it and was like, okay, let's try to keep going. But like he didn't. They made him paddle still with a dislocated shoulder.
It's a fair point, but I think the fact that it happened again.
Did it happen again?
Yeah, during the immunity challenge, there was a part where they didn't really touch on it too much.
Because have you ever had a dislocated shoulder? Like if you do anything afterwards for the next 2 to 3 days, it's going to come out again. It's going to get hurt. It's like
I have not had a dislocated shoulder.
Yeah, like that's not Daniel's fault. That is literally like you could dislocate your shoulder again by just getting up out of bed. Like
well,
yeah.
All right, go ahead. Just say Tori.
Yeah, I will say there's a case for Zach because I do think he throws his game away by purposefully like saying it's my fault, it's like being that doom and gloom.
Hardly ever works out for anyone.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there, if you want to change your LVP to Zach, you can. But I think I am going to still give it to Tori.
I will give it to Zach. I feel bad. He was someone where it kind of hurt. Yes, I'm compared to him. Yeah. We have a similar shirt. But at the same time, it was just like the way it went about it. I just felt bad because I don't like seeing people down on themselves and stuff like that. And it just seemed like a hopeless position he was in.
Yeah.
And I felt like he did have potential. Granted, in my draft, I was like, he's just not wowing me. But like after watching the first episode to a point, I'm like, all right, he definitely seems like a player in this.
I wouldn't have pictured him as going out this early. If he was still around when I picked Daniel, I probably would have picked Zach instead. So it would have potentially been different. So
who knows? All right. List all the reasons why Tori is terrible.
I mean, Tori just came into this game way too hot. Clearly already has a bunch of people targeting her. She's put herself in the very unfortunate position moving forward that she has to play very, very, very well in order to survive in the game, which can happen, but you never want to put yourself in that in day one. And so I think she had a very bad first couple of days of Survivor. I'm sorry. I thought you had a very good cast this time. I thought you had a great team.
I was so happy with my cast. I was like, Oh, I feel like we both, benefited a lot from this. Adjusting my collar was like, yeah, I felt good about myself. Granted, it's just the first episode.
Yeah.
However, it's a big
Yeah,
disadvantage.
like I think Ika can win maybe one immunity against Botsy, like if Botsy goes, or there could be a double tribal and they end up convincing the bigger group to potentially go against each other. Like there's stuff that can happen to keep them
I know
from
there is
getting
stuff that can
decimated.
happen, like Taku losing a puzzle piece.
Yeah. Yeah,
It
that's
happened.
it can happen. Like the thing is, it can happen. So don't give up. I only have one person on that tribe for a reason. They were like all like that entire tribe, except for like one or two people, were like at the bottom of of my group. So
This hurts. This hurts.
yeah. Okay, well that does it here for this episode of the Day After podcast. We did it. Another recap on I'd say a pretty good episode of Survivor.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, a strong beginning, and I will say it is granted still get to know the cast, but after like a first episode impression, I do like this cast, this little chemistry a bit more than 41. I don't think it's like leagues better, but I think it's like for a first episode, I'm like, I vibe with this one a lot.
I'm very surprised because I thought I'd have the opposite opinion of where I thought that I would think this is like 41 but worse, like just a lower version of it. But I agree. I actually kind of am enjoying this cast maybe even more.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's part of the thing of like based off of, like the cast reveal when it was like how we get it, which is like when it's leaked online.
Yeah.
It didn't seem very Survivor-esque, but it's very different when, like you don't have like the Survivor background on them, the buffs on and everything. And like you get the feel, you see these contestants like in this environment, and it's like, okay, you go with it. But yeah, I think a lot of people are very positive about this season from the get-go.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe it's also because the Beware thing and the Shot in the Dark are, they were already introduced, so like the fact that they're back isn't as impactful to us as an audience as last time.
Yeah, and we also have to remember premieres of Survivor have been very good for a very long time. Like I can't recall when there was like a bad premiere of Survivor. Like it's been a very we might be going into like the 20s or something to get a bad.
I have to like that's a thinker, because I always find it difficult to choose a favorite episode per se, because like with something like with a show like this, you kind of like see the season as a whole.
Yeah.
Whereas like I never really thought of like, oh, what was my favorite like first episode stuff. I've definitely had favorite finales.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, that's like an interesting thinker to think about of like what was like a crappy beginning.
Because I remember last season we thought Survivor 41 was a great premiere, and I think we even touted it as one of the best premieres we'd seen. Admittedly, I think there's a little bit of we were just excited that we were watching Survivor again. So I think we were definitely excited.
There is a little bit of that, yeah.
When there is a 2-hour premiere, like when you get 2 hours of Survivor, it's so great because they're able to give you stuff. They're like, one of the things that hindered last season was when they would just kind of have a whole episode, but 30 minutes of it was a twist, and then all of a sudden you're like, here's the twist, now a challenge, now here's tribal, and it's like, okay, but where are the characters? Who are these people? Why does this matter?
I feel like as they laid back, or as they established it a bit more, they were able to let those character moments shine a bit more. But I feel like part of introducing something new is that you have to explain it, especially if they make it very complicated. But like, this time, granted it's first episode, so who knows how the rest of the season is going to go with it. But I always look at it optimistically, because at the end of the day, even if it's a crappy season, there's still some things you can enjoy from it. Like you know, Thailand has like some moments, not a lot. I did like Rob in Thailand.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, you definitely
but
have to look pretty hard. I recently saw someone Once Upon an Island was like rank your top 12 the first 12 seasons in order of how you liked it. Thailand was at the bottom of every single commenter.
yeah, it wasn't great. There were a few, like I said, very few, but like it's still like Survivor, and there's like moments we enjoy. But yeah. Anywho,
one last thing actually. Who's your winner pick now? Do you have a new winner pick of the season after now watching them all on the islands?
Part of me wants to stick with my guns. Drea was still pretty high on there. So I think I'm still gonna like stick with Drea up there. One, I don't know how much it does actually play into it, like being one of the first people, like, you know, getting to explain themselves or whatnot. But she has that going for her. She's a very strong contestant. She has 2 advantages and stuff. And she seems very personable and charismatic, you know, and being able to talk to like different people. Like, I think she definitely has a great shot. I would say after the first episode, winner pick based off of that would still be Drea. I still have to root for Tori with every fiber of my being.
Yeah,
but
I mean, it's going to be an interesting storyline how long she can kind of still stick around after the episode. But I'm hoping. I want her to make it to the merge.
You know, so I've gotten out of crazier situations before. Granted, it's someone else, but like my luck is weird, so it's possible she can make it out.
We'll see. I still have a lot of hope for Hai. I think they would have shown his mistake a lot bigger by covering himself in blood. I think if he doesn't do very good on the season, I think they would have had some confessional like, I was covered in blood. Like, what was that about?
There is that possibility. It was a little crazy. Like,
yeah.
So who knows?
People commented on it, but like, it wasn't. They didn't make deal.
Too big of a deal. It wasn't a plot point. It was more like, what?
It was a funny like thing that happened, but like, I'm just trying to think, like, if I did that, I know for a fact I'm going home like right away, because they would look at me and be like, okay, Joe's now just covered in blood. What is that about? No one else was covered in blood. Let's get rid of him.
Yeah, I would be one of the. I don't think I would have put myself in that situation to begin with, but I mean,
Coach would have just put his entire self in blood and just like came in there as like a carry situation.
I think the only thing I see myself doing, and this is like if I gave 0 fucks of winning, I would put some in my mouth, and as soon as I got the stuff,
yeah, you're in the boat, like you hold it this whole time. You're in the boat, and then all of a sudden, like right the person in front of you just.
I don't know how that would benefit my game at all.
Not at all.
I'm maybe for entertainment. I was like, it's funny, guys, and then they'll be like, "Where'd you get the blood?"
Yeah, that would be hilarious. But yeah, but that does it here for this episode of the Day After Podcasts.
All right, peace out, guys.
Have a good one.